My fiancée demanded I take her last name and cut ties with my family because they didn't fit their social status. So I called off the engagement and cut them off. I, 28M, come from a close-knit Italian-American family that runs a chain of successful restaurants. My family's culinary legacy spans 3 generations, starting with my grandfather who immigrated here with nothing but his recipes and determination. I've been working in our restaurant since I was old enough to wash dishes, and now manage 2 of our most successful locations. I met my fiancée, 26F, 3 years ago when she came in as a customer at one of our restaurants. She was smart, ambitious, and working as a marketing executive at a major firm. Things moved quickly between us. The chemistry was undeniable. Within a year, we were living together, and 6 months ago, I proposed. That's when things started to change. She started making comments about how old-fashioned and patriarchal it was that women traditionally take their husband's last name. I understood her perspective and told her she could keep her last name if she wanted. But that wasn't enough. Actually, she said during dinner one night, I want you to take my last name. My family name is dying out, and I'm an only child. Your family has multiple sons to carry on the name. I was taken aback, but tried to have a reasonable discussion. I explained how important my family name was to our restaurant brand and heritage. She dismissed this, saying we could rebrand the restaurants. When I mentioned my cultural background and how important these traditions were in Italian families, she called me sexist and said I was clinging to outdated customs. The demands escalated from there. She began insisting that after marriage, we needed to move across the country to California, where her parents lived. When I pointed out that I couldn't leave the family business, she said this was my opportunity to break free from my family's suffocating influence. Your family has too much control over your life, she would say. You need to start putting me first. Things came to a head during a dinner with both our families last week. She had been pushing me to make the announcements about the name change and move, but I had been hesitating. Midway through dinner, she clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. We have some exciting news, she announced, ignoring my alarmed look. After the wedding, we'll be moving to California, and to mark our new beginning, my future husband has agreed to take my family name. The silence that followed was deafening. My parents and brothers looked at me in shock. I hadn't agreed to any of this. Before I could speak, she continued, addressing my family directly. Additionally, we feel it's important to establish our own identity as a couple. So we'll be limiting our contact with extended family for the first year of marriage. It's a common practice recommended by marriage counselors. My mother's face fell, and my father's expression hardened. My youngest brother muttered something under his breath and walked away from the table. Her parents, on the other hand, were beaming with pride. I sat there, watching this nightmare unfold, realizing that the woman I thought I knew was showing her true colors. She hadn't just made these announcements without my consent. She had deliberately orchestrated this public ambush to pressure me into compliance. After dinner, when we were alone, I confronted her. What was that about? We never agreed to any of those things. She rolled her eyes. I had to force the issue. You were never going to stand up to your family on your own. This is what's best for us. Best for us? Or best for you? I asked. You didn't even discuss this with me. You just made these huge decisions about our life without my input. Because I knew you'd never agree otherwise, she snapped. Your family has you so wrapped around their finger that you can't think for yourself. Someone had to take control of the situation. That's when she delivered her ultimatum. Either I commit to taking her name and cutting ties with my family, or she would call off the wedding. She probably thought this would force me to cave in. Instead, I felt a strange sense of clarity. You're right about one thing, I said quietly. This wedding needs to be called off. Her face went from smug to shocked in an instant. What? We're done, I said, standing up. I'm not going to let you isolate me from my family or erase my identity to satisfy your ego. Her reaction was explosive. You can't do this to me, she screamed. I've already sent out save the dates. I've booked vendors. My family has spent thousands on deposits. You should have thought about that before trying to manipulate me, I replied, maintaining my calm. I'll pay back your family for any deposits they've lost. She switched tactics immediately, her anger dissolving into tears. Baby, I'm sorry. I just got carried away. You know how much this means to me. We can work this out. But I was done. The veil had been lifted, and I could see every manipulation attempt for what it was. I started gathering my essential belongings, documents, some clothes, my laptop. She followed me around the apartment, alternating between threats and pleading. That's when she dropped the real bombshell. Fine, you want the truth? I never planned to limit contact with your family to just 1 year. I was going to make sure we never saw them again after the wedding. I stopped packing and turned to face her. What? Your family is beneath us, she spat. My parents have connections to the best social circles in California. Did you really think I was going to let your immigrant family embarrass me in front of my friends? God, the way your mother dresses, how your father still has that thick accent. The sheer contempt in her voice made my blood boil. Before I could respond, she continued. Once we were married and moved to California, I was going to make sure we were too busy to visit. Too many important social events, charity galas, exclusive parties. Your family would never fit in. Eventually, you would have forgotten about them and embraced my world instead. She called her parents, and within an hour, they showed up at our apartment, ready to mediate. Her father tried to play the role of the reasonable negotiator. Son, let's discuss this like adults, he said. My daughter comes from a certain social standing. We need to maintain appearances. Surely you can understand that. What I understand, I replied, is that you raised a daughter who thinks it's acceptable to mock immigrants and look down on hardworking people because they don't fit into your elite social circle. Her mother bristled. We're not elitists. We simply believe that marriage should be between people of similar backgrounds. Your family's culture is just so different from ours. The thinly veiled prejudice was stunning. They spoke about my family as if we were some kind of embarrassing secret to be hidden away. All those times my fiancée had insisted on hosting family gatherings at restaurants instead of our home, all those excuses about why my parents couldn't meet her friends, it all made sense now. I'm leaving, I announced, picking up my bags. Don't try to contact me again. My fiancée made one last desperate attempt. Your family will never be good enough for high society, she sneered. You're choosing to stay in your little ethnic bubble instead of moving up in the world. I turned back to face them all. No, I'm choosing love and acceptance over prejudice and shame. My family may not fit your definition of high society, but at least they don't judge people based on their accents or backgrounds. The look on their faces was priceless. They'd finally shown their true colors, and there was no taking it back. I left the apartment that night and went straight to my brother's place. He took one look at my face and knew something was seriously wrong. After I told him everything, he just nodded and said, I never liked her anyway. The next few days were chaos. My ex-fiancée started a smear campaign, posting on social media about how I had abandoned her and betrayed her family's trust. She conveniently left out the parts about wanting me to cut ties with my family or her true opinions about immigrants. Her friends started sending me nasty messages. Apparently, I was a coward for not manning up and accepting her family's generous offer to welcome me into their social circle. Some even suggested I should be grateful that someone of her standing had even considered marrying me. But the worst part came when she showed up at my parents' house unannounced. She brought her mother along, thinking they could appeal to my mother's sympathy. They found my mother in the middle of preparing Sunday dinner, flour on her apron, the kitchen filled with the smell of her famous lasagna. We just want to understand, her mother said condescendingly. Maybe if your family tried harder to assimilate, to be more American, this wouldn't be an issue. My mother, who had remained quiet until then, finally spoke up. I am American, she said firmly. I became a citizen 30 years ago. My children were born here. But being American doesn't mean erasing who we are or where we came from. My ex tried to interrupt, but my mother wasn't finished. When I came to this country, I had nothing. No money, no English, no friends. But I had my pride and my culture. No one can take that from me. And no one will take it from my children. Then she did something that made me incredibly proud. She pointed to the door and said in her accented English, "Now get out of my house. My sauce is simmering, and I don't have time for people who think they're better than others." After they left, my mother hugged me tight and whispered, "You made the right choice, son." A week later, I went back to our apartment with my brothers to get the rest of my things. She was there waiting. But this time, instead of threats or tears, she tried one last manipulation. "I was wrong," she said softly. I'll accept your family. We can have dinner with them once a month. They can even come to California to visit sometimes. Just please don't throw away what we have." But looking at her now, all I could see was the contempt in her eyes when she'd mocked my father's accent. All I could hear was her voice saying my family would embarrass her. Some things, once revealed, can't be unseen. "No," I said simply. "I deserve someone who loves all of me, including my family and my heritage. And my family deserves better than someone who sees them as an embarrassment." As I walked out of that apartment for the last time, I felt nothing but relief. Sure, canceling the wedding was expensive and messy. Yes, some mutual friends took her side and cut contact with me. But I had preserved something far more valuable than money or social connections, my self-respect and my family bonds. These days, I'm focusing on healing and reconnecting with my roots. Every Sunday, I'm at my parents' house for family dinner, helping my mother in the kitchen as she teaches me old family recipes. My father tells stories about his childhood in Italy, and this time I listen more carefully, appreciating the strength it took for him to build a life in a new country. Sometimes I think about how close I came to losing all of this, the warmth of family gatherings, the pride in our heritage, the unconditional love and acceptance. My ex-fiancée thought she was offering me an upgrade in life, but she was really asking me to trade something priceless for mere social status.